You know it, I know it, every One Piece fan knows it. This arc that we're in right now, Egghead Island, the future island 500 years into the future, this arc is extremely pivotal. Obviously, not many folks, very few folks even conceived of this arc even happening, existing before Wano Country. But it's in this arc that we may get the biggest reveals for the biggest secrets in the world of One Piece. And this arc, the beginning of the final saga of the series, setting up the upcoming biggest events in One Piece history. So even though we've got major reveals in the post-time skip, things in Zou, and how we find the One Piece itself via the Load Poneglyphs, the Road Poneglyphs, or the downpour of major world-changing events and world-building events during Wano Country, like the abolishment of the Warlord system, or even seeing the legendary Goldie Roger fight for the very first time in the series, Egghead could genuinely surpass them all. And of course, the main person, the secondary main character, if you would, after Monkey D. Luffy in this arc is going to be none other than Dr. Vegapunk, conducting so many of these radical reveals and upcoming major events for the beginning of the final saga of the series. So off the rip, I want to talk about Vegapunk, the things that they're going to do that are going to change the future, and the reveals that we may be getting in the near future, in the very near future. And I'm going to start off with a big reveal that needs to be addressed by Dr. Vegapunk.
かつては強大な力を誇ったようだが、その国の情報は必要なまでに書き消されておる。
So while the Void Century, here we go, oh boy. While the Void Century is currently the greatest mystery in the world of One Piece, and it's only until we reach Laugh Tale when we know the full truth, the whole truth of what happened during the Void Century, it's not impossible for Oda to punch some holes in the veil that surround that time period with someone like Dr. Vegapunk. And one of the key things that we know played a major role during that time period, and what so many folks during the current time period seek, would be, of course, the ancient weapons. So obviously of the three, Poseidon is fully revealed right now as Shirahoshi. The details on how controlling the Sea Kings can cause mass destruction is, I think, somewhat self-evident, just considering the sheer size of these monsters. In the One Piece Deep Blue, it is stated that the Sea Kings are at least 5 kilometers long. That one seems a bit crazy, but I think that some could be, like, for example, the long flamingo-looking one and that huge zebra one. They could potentially be, like, literally 5-kilometer behemoths. And just commanding the ones that could move the entire No arc of itself is very impressive. If there's more out there, like even bigger ones, like, for example, what if the ones in the Florian Triangle? What if they are also Sea Kings of some kind that Shirahoshi can control? Now you can see why Poseidon would be an ancient weapon. I think it's also very likely that the Sea Kings have other skills and abilities that we ourselves are not aware of just yet. We can tell based on their interactions with Luffy and Shirahoshi on Fishman Island, and as recent as chapter 968, where the Sea Kings talk to each other telepathically about the sovereigns. The Sea Kings, particularly those that can move the Noah Arc, are very far from mindless beasts. But here's where Vegapunk comes in. Not Poseidon, but the other two ancient weapons are, of course, way more mysterious, especially Uranus. It is likely a sky-related ancient weapon, since the name itself, Uranus, is related to a Greek/Roman god of the sky and the personification of the heavens themselves. So given this theme, a lot of folks rightfully so believe that the world government has access to Uranus. And that only makes even more sense when you think about what wiped out the Lulusia kingdom. And the bridge, of course, that ties in the events of Lulusia to Vegapunk will be Rob Lucci's comments in chapter 1062 about how this event may have ties to Vegapunk. And you can argue, as of the latest chapter of One Piece, chapter 1064, you can argue why this does make some sense here. So Vegapunk, we all know, succeeded and created a device that could control the weather. He tried to do it in his home country of Baltimore. That failed, but he succeeded on Egghead Island. It is most likely this island AC. It's most likely this giant floating ring that we see on top of the island, but at this point in time, we're not too sure. The fact of the matter is that Vegapunk did what a lot of folks thought that Bill Gates was trying to do years ago: control the weather, and he's done so successfully. When you think about the events of the Lucia Kingdom and how people saw a shadow in the sky that was covering the entire country, but they themselves couldn't see what was going on exactly because the clouds are so thick, it's very likely that this object, kind of like Kaido, also brought the clouds along with them to obscure it and keep it hidden. But what's also extremely important is what's noted to about the object, how it's just floating. It's just floating, suspended above the entire country. And it's massive. It's a large object. We see in the latest chapter, again, of One Piece, Vegapunk Lilith talk about anti-gravity. How this Iron Giant, Iron Man mech can only fly using these jet boosters for propulsion, but also it was equipped with anti-gravity features. That somehow ties into, again, the Island AC, fair enough, but the fact of the matter is that anti-gravity exists in One Piece. So a large, gigantic object, like some sort of Star Wars Star Destroyer ship, right? Yeah, that is possible in the world of One Piece. Genuinely so. Anti-gravity, again, is real. The signs are there. So that's Uranus stuff, and I can see Vegapunk having ties to Uranus in some way. Let's say, for example, it's able to float because of Vegapunk's anti-gravity tech. Who knows? What we'll see in the future. But remember, there's another one that we know more about, and that's called Pluton. We just found out in chapter 1053 that it's hidden somewhere in Wano country. But also keep in mind that this powerful ship can be made by Franky. Franky has the blueprints, at least he should in theory still remember the blueprints on how to create something like Pluton. I would be shocked, stunned, if Franky and Vegapunk never in this arc talk about ancient weapon Pluton, especially when it should be fresh on Franky's mind after the last arc. This might also cause Franky to reveal that some of the aspects of the Sun Ego are watered down versions of Pluton. And when you think about why would Vegapunk want to help out the Straw Hats, particularly, let's say someone like Franky, who is the main instigator of blowing up his own lab in his home country of Baltimore. Well, even though I did click the big button that had the pirate mark on it, as Franky said back then, because Franky has insight on Pluton, this could allow Franky to slide into those Vegapunk DMs and get into his good graces. Absolutely. Though there's a possibility here that Vegapunk might already know a bit about Pluton. Let's say that when Vegapunk met Kuma in prison because of his interest in Kuma's race, whatever it is, if let's say that happened 10 or 12 years ago in the story, when he met Kuma in prison, this could also be around the time of the Franky flashback, which would coincide with Tom San. Remember Tom San? The fish man that taught Franky all he knows, essentially? Yeah. You see, Tom San was reinstated with his sentence of aiding the Pirate King Goldie Roger in chapter 357. Tom San was taken away after sacrificing himself for Franky. Now, it's noted that he was probably executed, but he was shot up with tranquilizer darts and taken away by CP5. Therefore, it's very, very possible that before he was executed, he did spend some time in Let's Say Impel Down during Kuma's life imprisonment. You see how things line up now. So this actually might be one of the reasons why Vegapunk wants to meet the Straw Hats, because of Franky and Frankie's potential knowledge of ancient weapon Pluton that Vegapunk got a sprinkle of potentially from Tom-san if he met Tom-san in prison a decade plus ago. Because ultimately, I do have my suspicions that Vegapunk has been trying to, I think, catch up to the technology of the ancient kingdom of yore long ago during the Void Century. And Frankie, who I think is going to be the second most prominent Straw Hat in this arc, should still have that intel in his mind. And I think that is very valuable for Vegapunk. But also, what's particularly valuable is, of course, as per usual, the primary Straw Hat in every arc of One Piece, Monkey D. Luffy. So in chapter 433, during the post-Enies Lobby arc, Kobe had a nice heart-to-heart conversation with Luffy. Of course, Nami was also wiretapping in, getting all that juicy intel. Good for her. However, during that conversation, Kobe mentions Vegapunk and how Vegapunk found out how Devil Fruits endow their powers. Kobe explains that the tech to grant inanimate objects powers, Devil Fruit powers, was his biggest project from a year ago from that point in the story. Oda has explained before in the past about his desire to flesh out more about Devil Fruits in SBSs. Like, for example, at the end of SBS 45, or even in SBS 48, where Oda specifically states, and I quote, "You'll have to wait for a certain professor to make his appearance in the story and explain exactly what Devil Fruits really are." Well, Egghead Island is most likely the place to reveal this big revelation, since Vegapunk is probably our main man, our main professor. And there is no other test subject better when it comes to Devil Fruits right now than Monkey D. Luffy. And Robin. Let me explain. In the last arc, we all read the epic transformation that was Gear 5. And Kaido explained in chapter 1046, awakening is what happens when your mind and body catch up to your powers, end quote. So this is a vague statement, and Oda, for damn sure, he does love vague. But this is the final saga, so Oda should be of the mindset of revealing secrets and clarifying things rather than doing the opposite. So with that in mind, and Kaido's comments in mind, there is a question we have to ask. What is Robin's Demonio Fleur? What is Robin's Demonio Fleur? It might just be another version of, let's say, her Gigantofleur that we saw in chapter 1020, but she clearly, at least I'd argue, she clearly gets more powerful in the Demonio Fleur state because she handled Black Maria when she transformed into the Demonio state. So I get the feeling personally that Robin has already awakened or is on the verge of awakening her Devil Fruit abilities. So I do have in the near future, another video talking about that kind of stuff. But Vegapunk's knowledge about Devil Fruits should be really, really helpful in this matter when it comes to understanding what awakening is truly. So Robin, I think, is test case number 2. And again, Monkey D's Luffy is test case numero uno, without a doubt. Luffy, let's get to that main man. Luffy, of course, wild action, nutty stuff with the Nika ability. But he himself may not realize that he is a mythical Zoan, even a Zoan now. He should know that he's awakened, since Kaido tells him as much in chapter 1046, but the details on him being a Zoan will probably be revealed to him by Vegapunk. And this also lines up very well with Vegapunk's specialty, since the vast majority of Devil Fruit shenanigans that Vegapunk has been involved with are Zoan ability related. Outside of Kizaru's laser beams in the Pacifista, the vast majority, again, is Zoan ability stuff. The two main cases here would be the objects that confer different powers are all Zoan so far. Even Caesar Clown Smiley was a Zoan, and then plus Vegapunk is responsible for Momo's ability, which is based on Kaido's Azure Dragon ability, and the ability seems to be like 99, like damn near Kaido's own ability, outside of, let's say, it being a quote, Azure Dragon, end quote. It's more like a rose, like Goku Black. It's a rose dragon, whatever. However, Luffy's fruit seems to be even more special than the average mythical Zoan. Sounds kind of funny since they are the rarest fruits in One Piece, thereby there is nothing average about them. I would say that there are two main reasons why Luffy's fruit is particularly unique. Number one is that Luffy is a One Piece specific God Zoan fruit user. Things like phoenixes or azure dragons, nine-tailed foxes, even pegasuses. These are myths that are relative to everyday folklore, IRL, in real life folklore. But there ain't no sun god Nika in real life myth. That sounds weird. But there is no sun god Nika, as far as I can tell, across any myth in the real world. Now, Joy Boy is a different story, because Joy Boy in One Piece does have clear ties to the Haitian voodoo god, who was also named Joy Boy, of hope and music. Shouts to my people, Sakpase. His dancing and his music brings even the coldest Walter White dudes to tears of joy and laughter. He can even purify evil spirits. But Joy Boy, the Haitian voodoo god, is not a sun god. No. So the sun god bit is particularly unique, especially when Luffy's abilities of being a quote sun god just means better rubber, like way better rubber, like way better rubber. At least so far. So far. I would argue that what we saw at the end of the Kaido fight in chapter 1049, a unique flaming-like aura forms around Luffy's whole body before he drills Kaido into the ground. So that could be the super unique ability of the Sun God, and it's probably the thing that Luffy may actually come to realize once he finds out from Vegapunk that he is a mythical Zoan. But here's where number 2 ties in a very funky way. So funky to the point where people might not like it, but it is very possible. Where Luffy is not just a Zoan, but he's also still a Paramecia. This is possible. Where when Luffy is not in Gear 5, he's still a Paramecia. But when Luffy goes into Gear 5, he's not a mythical Zoan. But that one will need its own video in the future, for damn sure. But Vegapunk will most likely be the one to reveal this information if him being a Paramecia and then a Zoni transforms, if that's actually a thing here. And that may have ties even deeper to, let's say, the root cause, the origins of the devil fruits themselves. The only mythical Zoan with a One Piece specific god after his name. Because there are, and here we go, there are age-old questions about devil fruits that we've had since the very first arcs of One Piece. What are these fruits exactly? Why can't users of these fruits swim in bodies of water? Where did these fruits come from in the first place? Etc. and etc. But I believe that the actions of Vegapunk and his successes with implanting fruits into non-living things, and the quote failure of Kaido's ability existing in someone else like Momonosuke, or let's even Caesar Clown with Smiley. There are more and more signs now pointing to the reason why these fruits exist is tech related. Science is likely the root cause of the devil fruit's creation. And there is one man, one group in particular that might be one of the major signs that tech is the root cause of the devil fruit's creation. And that is Vinsmoke Judge and Germa 66. A lot of folks kind of meme on this, but I think it does have some importance here, to say the least. That Sanji and his siblings have swirling eyebrows just like the devil fruit swirls. We know that when someone eats a fruit, their very DNA is altered. That's a very important thing there. Vegapunk was able to recreate Kyle's ability with just his blood. Recently, we've also seen who? Doc Q. Doc Q can make a disease that can literally alter someone's genetic makeup, their actual chromosomes are altered. I think fully a man becomes a woman, or in theory vice versa, a woman could turn into a man, or let's say the masculine disease, whatever you want to call it. So this shows you just how deep of a fundamental level these abilities can work on. Of course, Eva-chan was also an example of that. But the keynote here is that all of the Vince Smoke family Germa kids are genetically modified humans, and they have unique abilities that they can use with or without their raid suits. Niji and Sanji are very clear examples of that. And it's also very, very similar to various races in the world of One Piece that have unique abilities from birth. Like, for example, the Minks. So someone's DNA, their quote lineage factors in One Piece, end quote, in theory, is one of the warehouses that stores the powers of the devil fruits themselves. And this very knowledge, Tai Lopez style, was first discovered by Vegapunk and Judge and his clique when they were part of who? Mads, which is also something that needs to be fleshed out in this arc, given the ties of DNA and devil fruits. But the current tech isn't good enough. The current tech of the world of One Piece is not good enough to reach that level of devil fruit creation. If Vegapunk is, let's say, 500 years out into the future with his tech, then the tech I'm talking about is like 800, 900 years out, further than Vegapunk can go at this point in time. Which those numbers were picked by choice rather than going into the future. If we apply that to the past, 800, 900 years out was during the time of when? The Void Century. It is very likely that the ancient kingdom of yore had technology that surpassed, went beyond the tech of the great Vegapunk in this era.
Dr. Vegapunk, 世界最大の頭脳を持つ男.
Before we continue on the video and you made it this far, it would be awesome as all hell if you support your boy with a thumbs up, with a subscription, and of course, click on that bell to join the notification squad, my people. So I've already addressed potential Vegapunk reveals and the importance of things like the devil fruits and of course the ancient weapons. And mainly it's because I believe that these are the most important things that are going to be surrounding the two most important straw hats for this arc, Luffy and Frankie. And you can also see how this could shine, really shine a light on some of the major secrets of the past and filling in some of the chasm that is the Void Century. But there are other voids that Vegapunk should give us insight on, if not the full details on, in the very near future, since Vegapunk is a major player for a lot of these voids. So with the aim of keeping this video under 30 minutes, let's run through some of these things real quick that all needs to address through Vegapunk. Number one is, of course, the connections with Kuma, Dragon, and the Revolutionary Army. If Vegapunk is a good guy, a bad guy, or a third Dynasty Warriors party, the Yellow Army that comes out of nowhere, we're gonna find out sooner rather than later, for sure. And then in doing so, we should find out if Vegapunk is against the Tenryubito world government, or is he for them? Or for him, does he care at all about them? And for him, they are just a means to an end. He needs their finances and their equipment so he can actually create the things that he envisioned. But Kuma does follow Dragon's orders. Kuma was there guarding the Strat ship during the time skip, so Vegapunk is most likely a good guy, but let's wait and see how things roll in the near future. That's void number one. Void number two, Sea Stone. Sea Stone originates in Wano country, and we saw during the Law versus Hawkins fight, Hawkins used a Sea Stone nail to shut down Trafalgar Law's abilities. So Sea Stone, I thought for sure, would have been way more fleshed out in Wano country, but it was not. That was very unfortunate. This arc gives us a second chance as to Sea Stone being important, because remember, it's Vegapunk who was the one that figured out that Sea Stone can emit the energy of the sea, and he coated the bottom of the Marine and WG ships so they can cross the comm belts, therefore making their control over the world way more effective. And also, even though we haven't seen them yet, Smoker Kun should be a major player in this arc. And Smoker's weapon of choice, a Jite, I think it's called, it has a Kairoseki tip. Just the tip, but maybe not for long, because with Vegapunk's tech, it can be way more than just a tip, maybe the entire rod. Uh-oh. That is Sea Stone in Vegapunk. We need more knowledge on that. And hopefully in the future, certain strats, i.e. Usopp, can get Sea Stone based buffs. After the Sea Stone stuff would be the Lunarian stuff. This is very important because we have the Seraphim PX Lunarian soldiers, and the Lunarians were supposedly thought to be like wiped out, extinct. But King exists, and Big Mom tried to recruit King into the fold, of course. But now you have these Lunarian kids that just so happen to look like the warlords. So what is up with the whole Lunarian situation, Vegapunk? What's going on there? Does it simply relate to, let's say, taking King the Wildfire's blood when he was in prison on Punk Hazard with Kaido? Or is there way, way more to this? And Vegapunk should fill in that void, absolutely. After that, potentially. But I'm praying anything related to the moon, or the moons plural. Oh, I'm confident now that there is something there involving the moons and Vegapunk in some capacity. Why are the buildings on this island all in the shape of rocket ships? Why are the holograms weird space Godzilla-like monsters? Why is the Vegapunk system of 6 Vegapunks in a main stellar body themed after satellite bodies? So let's say planets surrounding the main stellar body, a sun, something of that sort, or moons surrounding a planet. There is genuinely a chance that Vegapunk and moon shenanigans could be coming in the near future. But again, another video really soon. Another video, another day. And of course, I'll leave it here. Rob Lucci's words about Lucia having ties to Vegapunk also means indirectly in some way that Vegapunk may have ties to Imu, the potential final villain of the world of One Piece. And if Vegapunk were to name dropping Imu in of itself would be a major deal. Because I think at some point before let's say the final war, Luffy should be aware of Imu's existence. Because Imu, like NL, is so anti-Luffy. And if we were to meet NL, let's end this arc. Oh, please. And there's going to be more signs, more foreshadowing, the precursor of what's to come in the future. Absolutely. And Vegapunk could potentially be a bridge for even something like that. So there are plenty of cookie jars that Vegapunk has their hands in, without a doubt. It's just a matter now of waiting to see what kind of cookies he's going to pull from these jars.